September 15th, 2020 edition of the Miami-Dade TPO's BPAC meeting. It's our first meeting since June 23rd. It's been a while. I'm going to go over the rules of engagement on the screens for all the participants and also the people in the audience, so they know how the meeting is going to be run. As of right now, we have, for the record, 4 BPAC members online, which is the minimum we need percentage-wise for a quorum. That's why I'm going ahead and starting the meeting. As other members come in, like the chair and vice chair, I will acknowledge them as they come in. Okay, so this meeting is a public meeting and is being recorded. If you experience any technical difficulties, please contact Lisa Wan at the number and the email you see on your screen. She's the technical support that's helping me run the meeting. So when you hear me say Lisa, that's who I'm referring to. During the meeting, everybody's going to be muted, except for when it's a public comment and so forth. If you want to provide a comment, you use the raise hand, and then you can talk that way. That way, we're not having any crosstalk and/or having any interference in the background with somebody else at the same time. We have two sets of attendees. It's called panelists and presenters. I mean, panelists and attendees. Those are the committee members along with the people who are doing the presentation. They have their own specific web link to access the meeting, so therefore they're able to go ahead and speak. Let's see, and I'm getting some information. So we have Colin is now here, and Mike Fleming is also here. It's not on my screen, but they're two here. So thank you very much, Lisa. If we have any items today which are going to be voted on, because it's done virtually, we need to make sure we see everybody and hear everybody. So when we do that, when I'm going around asking for votes and so forth, you need for you to say your name and so forth, and we can see you for the record on the screen. All right, go ahead to the next slide, please, Lisa. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to call the meeting to order and then do the roll call. Time right now is 5:34 p.m. And let's go to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to go call off the roll and just unmute yourself and tell me if you're here or not. Chairperson Worth?
Here.
Vice Chair Fleming? Mike?
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay. Francisco Arbeles?
Here.
All right, thank you, Francisco. And we'll talk to you again at 6. Edgar Ayala? Did I hear something? Edgar Ayala? Okay. Brett Buell? Sabine Deluche?
Here.
Yep.
Charles Fisher? Melissa Hagee?
Here.
Okay, thank you. And Hank Sanchez-Resnick?
Here.
Sibelis Rosado Mota? And Eric Tolbert? Eric?
Here.
Okay. All righty, okay, and I'm going to pass it out to you, Colin, as a chair, and then you can go ahead and introduce our new BPAC member. Go ahead, Colin.
Great. Thank you all for attending the September BPAC meeting. We do have a new member. Welcome, Melissa Hagee. It's good to have you on the board. You've been a longtime advocate, and you're doing some cool things. So you could probably educate us a little bit too. Do you want to give a brief intro?
Sure. Thanks, Colin. I'm happy to be here. My name is Melissa Hagee. I've been planning in South Florida for over 22 years. I'm a certified planner, and really excited to be part of BPAC. Working right now through my company, MHCP CoLab, we're doing a pedestrian priority zone project in Little Havana. And we're working with the city, the county, FDOT to create, and some of the people on this call actually, to create 4 pedestrian zones around schools within Little Havana to make it safer for children to cross the street. So glad to be here and to contribute. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other members today? Any new members?
No, that's the only new member.
All right. So let's move on to the next slide. The approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? All right. Anyone want to motion to approve the agenda?
I move the agenda be approved as shown.
All right.
I will
Second.
second that motion.
Okay.
And who was the second?
2 seconds. So
Yeah.
you take your choice, Sabine or Mike Fleming.
I'll go with Sabine.
There you go.
All right. So we have approval. All in favor?
I
All right.
Aye.
I'm pretty. All right. And I guess I'll go the other way. If there are no nays, then we'll just move it forward. If that's okay, Kevin.
Mhm.
All right. So moving on, the next item. Next slide.
That's it. Approval of the minutes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And so our last meeting was actually was it June, right?
Yeah, June
It was
23rd.
a long time ago. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to review the minutes, but that was long enough ago for me to have forgotten everything. So if anyone has any comments on the minutes, if anyone has anything to add, now would be the time.
This is Eric Toberg. I had only one comment, and is that I had not received the link to make comments on the interactive map, on the FDOT map, but I see that's in this month's FDOT presentation, so that's moot. So I approve the minutes. I move the minutes as written. Thank you.
All right, no other comments? Anyone want to second that?
second.
All right, Mr. Fleming. All right, so
Yeah.
we'll go the other way. If anyone has any objection, then motion to approve. All right, no objections heard. Moving on.
Mhm.
Public comments. Do we have anyone from the public on the line that would like to speak or provide any input? I'll look to Lisa.
Yes, we have Joe Curbello who would like to, has his hand
Oh.
raised.
All right.
So go ahead and
If
switch
you
him over
can-
to Lisa.
If you can unmute him.
Good evening, members. I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Joe Curbello. I'm the current chairperson of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust. I also know Mike Fleming very well from my involvement with Everglades Bicycle Club. And this is my first opportunity to sit back and listen to your meeting, and I look forward to it, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public? All right. Next item. It's a very short public comments. All right, member reports. Does anyone from the committee want to? Okay, we already got one pulled up. So let's get that started. I'm guessing this is Eric.
Eric, you're up to bat. Eric? If he lost his connection.
Hello.
Yeah,
There
we,
he is.
we can hear you now. Go ahead, Eric. You're up.
Okay, would you put up the first slide?
Okay, is that the one you see on screen now? It says Palmetto Bay?
On the
DUP
left,
bike lane?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, Village of Palmetto Bay is developing a downtown urban village, which is the westernmost part of Palmetto Bay. They have recently installed bike lanes on it, and I'd like to show you what they got. Don't see it yet, but they're mainly on Franjo Avenue, which is Southwest 97th Avenue. Also a place called Park Drive, which is a new road, which they're building along Palmetto Bay Park. There are a couple of connecting bike lanes. Unfortunately, the bike lanes do not connect with the bike lanes on 176th Street to the west of us in the Perrine area. Okay, can you show the other picture?
That one?
Yes, yes. I don't know how to make it big.
It is big.
Oh, okay.
Filling my screen.
Okay, fine. All right. They have put sidewalks all along Southwest 184th Street, which is the south side of Palmetto Bay, the north side of Cutler Bay.
Right.
But there's one spot that they missed, and this is it's a big drop. I've just sent an email to the Public Works Director of Cutler Bay, but that's obviously something that needs to be fixed because that's right in front of a bus stop. So that's a real problem. The other thing I wanted to talk about, I think it would be good to not revise the map, or at least produce a new map, until we have a bunch of things that were going to be completed by the end of the year. That's like the Chrome Avenue and the work replacing the boardwalk on Miami Beach. So at the end of the year, there should be a whole bunch of new projects to put on the map. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any other member comments?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Hank.
Hi. I'm actually out on my bike. I didn't get home early enough, so I'm on my phone, which is why you don't
Cheater.
see any video. Anyway, couple of things. Number one, I was really pleased when our Commodore Trail group hooked up with FDOT and their non-motorized vehicle monitoring project. It looks like we are going to be one of the sites. Mark Heineke of PROS was very helpful in making that connection, but I remember that Eric Katz had made a presentation to us about that program. They're just basically monitoring traffic on trails. So I'm excited about that. It's a 5-year project and it's very complicated, and at some point I'll make a presentation about it. But right now, the first step is to select the sites, and there's going to be about 45 sites throughout the state, and because that's all they have the equipment for. So that's number one. We're about to sign the agreement with them that Friends of the Commodore Trail will be responsible for.
Lost him.
They'll just be responsible for putting the counter in. and we'll be a big assistance for that. And then they'll just have to monitor it to make sure it's still in place. It'll be 2 weeks in December that it will be out there on the Commodore Trail, and then 2 weeks in May, and then it'll be every December and every May for the next few years.
What? Oh, that's Andrea talking?
That was
Tiffany.
Tiffany from FDOT. You had cut
Oh,
out.
Tiffany.
Completed your
I'm
sentence.
sorry. I'm sorry.
She filled in
Hi,
only what
Tiffany.
you were going to say.
Hi, Tiffany. Yeah. Anyway, the other thing is about Sharrows. I said that I would propose a resolution about Sharrows, and I looked into it, and I realized that it's not going to be that simple, because what I would like to see, and I think we probably are all in agreement about this, is a TPO policy about Sharrows. Now, in my wildest dreams, Miami, always behind with bicycling, behind the rest of the country, would be the first place in the country to basically outlaw Sharrows. But it can't be that simple. And I think that probably even in my wildest dreams, just outlawing Sharrows is not really going to be the right thing to do. But I can share with you links to a lot of research that I've done about Sharrows. Nobody likes Sharrows. Nobody, except urban planners, urban transportation planners who want to do something for bicycling and can't figure out what to do. So they do Sharrows. So Sharrows are a really inferior way of providing something for bicycling. And I know Eric Tolberg has said on many occasions that they really are not bicycling infrastructure. And a lot of the articles that I read from all kinds of sources, from NACTO to Bicycling Magazine, all over the place have said the same thing. Furthermore, they don't really make anybody safer. So they're a real problem. And what I would like to do is come up with a proposal for a policy that would basically say something to the effect of Sharrows are allowed, but they're a last resort, and they should only be used under the following conditions. And one of the most obvious situations where you should not use Sharrows is on very busy, highly trafficked streets. Like, say, I think there are Sharrows on 17th Avenue around US 1. It might be 22nd. It's just, I bike sometime on that street because I've got to go on that street to get somewhere. And I think, who put these Sharrows here? That's insane. That is so not a safe place to bike. So, Kevin, I think you're the one I need to ask. What are the steps to developing a policy that would ultimately be supported by the TPO board and become county policy?
Okay, well, number one, it would be more county policy than TPO policy. The TPO is not an implementing agency per se in that fact. It would probably be a long process in which you develop some sort of a rule or regulation that you're talking about. Goes, and then with assistance and input from the Miami-Dade County, from FDOT, and so forth, and
an alternative.
To see how far it's going to go. And yes, with an alternative, because if you're going to have that, you're going to have something in a set of it, and then that's just the beginning, and then you'll have the long process going through. But don't, that's the case with anything else. And if it's successful or gets to a point where it would be a county ordinance of such, then that would happen that time. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yeah, with regard to FDOT policy, a Sharrow is not considered a bike facility. And when we put in a Sharrow, that we have to get a design variation to put in a Sharrow instead of a bike facility, because it is something that we are we are kind of obligated to put in that bike facility where we can fit it. So when we can't fit it, that would require, and for some reason we can't accommodate it, we have to get a design variation. And if a Sharrow marking is being put down, it needs a design variation just as if we didn't put anything at all. So I'm just going to say that it is not something I recommend. Of course, we're going to be recommending an actual bike facility, which is defined in the Ford Design Manual. But Sharrows, a lot of times it is still custom for a lot of people to say, well, isn't it better to just have something to alert drivers?
Well, a sign that says bikes may use the lane
I
is
agree.
way better than a Sharrow.
Yeah, I agree. I hear that. And I'd have to look to see if it is a possibility to add that sign without the Sharrow marking present. I'll have to see if that's something we can do.
They usually are together. I've never seen that sign without Sharrows.
That's my understanding.
The problem is when you have Sharrows without the sign. That's what the Sharrow means.
But ideally, let's try to find ways to, of course, accommodate. That's what I'm at least within the network. That's why we're trying to work on that network plan. But we'll talk about it later.
I don't want to take too much time with this. I'll follow up with Kevin and Tiffany. Tiffany, by the way, thanks very much for your help with the trail counting thing. Tiffany was very much part of that. So that one other thing I wanted to say, and this is just sort of a flag because I want to follow up with something specific. I rarely bike on trails, even though I'm a strong advocate for a major trail. I rarely bike on them. And recently I biked on the old Cutler Trail south of Cocoa Plum Circle. And I was just appalled by the condition of the trail, which was recently resurfaced. And I took some pictures, which I will share with you, of a few places where the tree roots, there's just a lot more tree root than there is anything else. The tree roots have basically popped up the asphalt to the point where there isn't much trail at all. So I started thinking, okay, here we go again. Who's responsible for this? And I don't know. I think it's probably DTPW, but who really cares about trails? I brought this up at a meeting last week of the Trail Alliance, and I said I was going to bring it up with the BPAC, and I just think for all those people who are never going to bike on a roadway, who will only bike on a trail, we've got to be doing much better with trail maintenance and resurfacing. And I know it's really a pain. It just requires constant supervision and maintenance and expense at a time when everybody's looking at ways to cut money. So I am going to follow up. I'll just say that for now. That's just sort of a shot across the bow. I will do something about this. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other comments from the members?
Yes, I just wanted to say that, so next month, October 7th, is National Walk to School Day. And as far as on the Walk Safe side, obviously we won't be having our big in-person celebration, but we're working with the school district to identify ways to still encourage kids to walk and bike, especially during that day and during that week. So we'll be having our final meeting this week, and hopefully I can send out just some tips and other activities for kids to still celebrate, because we do still want to be able to celebrate, but it'll just be virtually this year.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item.
All right, Chair. Before we move that, just want to say while we were doing public comments, member comments, we had the members Sibylis Rosado Mota and Brett Bubo join the meeting. I just want to acknowledge that they're here.
I saw them on the chat, but thank you for doing that.
Mhm.
All right, the next item is the 24th annual Walk to School Day on October 7th. And this is, Sabine was just discussing this, but is
Yeah,
there an item?
Yes, there's going to be Scarlett Hammonds is going to do the presentation for this.
All right, welcome, Scarlett.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I'm Scarlett Hammonds with the Cordino Group. I'm here representing the school board. And I just have a few very statement to say about the background of the Walk to School Day and Walk Safe. It's International Walk to School Day. It was designed to promote awareness about pedestrian safety among students, parents, and schools. The program reinforces safe routes to schools, and safe walking skills, as well as walking and exercising to combat childhood obesity. The program is environmentally friendly because it reduces pollution generated by school-related traffic and reinforces the importance of obeying school zone speed limits. This year, the International Walk to School Day will be observed on October 7th, 2020. And in 2019, the Miami-Dade MPO and the BPAC endorsed the Walk to School event. This safety awareness campaign is crucial in our communities, as alarming data provided by the Ryder Trauma Center and Nicholas Children's Hospital reveals that there were 14 children under the age of 15 that were injured in traffic crashes between January and June of 2020. There were 5 injuries reported for children under the age of 15 related to traffic crashes. In October 2019, 188 schools implemented the Walk Safe Pedestrian Safety Program curriculum to coincide with the Walk to School Day event. The Office of Physical Education and Health Literacy will continue to spearhead its implementation at all of the district elementary schools. Walk Safe was created by the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine to reduce pediatric pedestrian injuries excuse me, and fatalities. And as Sabine was mentioning, the Walk Safe, Walk to School Day events will be a little different this year, and will still be promoted, but hope to pick up next year with actual in-person events. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions, any follow-up? All right, hearing none. Moving on to the next item, please.
Thank you all.
Should we have a resolution?
Oh, yes, of course.
So moved.
I move.
All right, I
Second.
think I heard
ahead,
a
Eric.
first and a second. So, do you want to state the resolution, Eric?
I move that the BPAC supports the 24th annual Walk to School Day on 7th October.
Second.
Brett, second. Thank you. Hearing unless we hear any objections, then we'll go ahead and pass that present. All right. Next item is the. Sorry. Can you read that? Sorry, I have a little one.
No problem. For fatherhood calls. All right. So we have an informational item from the Miami-Dade to our Edmondson. It's going to be discussing the SEFTEC Southeast Florida 2045 Regional Transportation Plan. Tawari, you're up.
All right. Hi. Good afternoon, guys. Thank you guys for the time for having me come and present this plan to you. As Kevin said, my name is Tuared Monson. I'm the TPO liaison to the Southeast Florida Transportation Council, which is the SEFTEC. And I'm just here. I want to just present the most recent document adopted by that council, which was adopted on August 7th. And this is the 2045 Southeast Regional Transportation Plan. Next slide, please. So what is
Actually, Tawari? One second. Just a note, just as a reminder to the committee, this is an informational item, so there's no need for a resolution or anything like that. Sorry about that, Tori.
No problem, no problem. So what is the CEFTEC? To give the committee a little background on what the CEFTEC is. As I said, the CEFTEC is the Southeast Florida Transportation Council. And this really is a formal partnership of the 3 MPOs that are all within the US Census designated Miami urbanized area. So from the map to the right, you can see that our area includes the Palm Beach, Broward, and the Miami-Dade MPOs. Now, this CEFTEC, the board is made up of a member of each representative of each of the MPOs. And they meet from 2 to 4 times a year. 2 to 4 times a year just to go over the various regional planning documents and coordination. Next slide, please. So now, what are some of the functions of the CEFTEC? So the CEFTEC really serves as a forum of policy coordination and undertakes regional planning efforts, including the approval of the regional network map, prioritizing transportation projects in the Miami urbanized area for the Transportation Regional Incentive Program, otherwise known as a TRIP program, which is a program that's dedicated funding specific to regional projects. And of course, we have a regional public involvement process. And then one of the main documents, which is what I'm here to present today, is a regional long-range transportation plan. Next slide, please. So now, as a part of this regional plan, the first thing we want to define is, what is our vision? What is our future 2045 vision? So our vision is to really create a shared regional transportation document that identifies regional needs, funding, and policies that really serve and benefit the entire Southeast Florida region. Now, this plan, it really builds upon the respective LRTPs from the 3 counties. And what it does is it creates a unified voice. And it's a document that's really a call to action. We really want to look at and to diversify our current mobility approach and how to really connect to our land use planning. Next slide, please. So this document is really structured to really ask big questions and to find even bigger answers. With limited land, limited financial resources, we kind of really need to be more efficient with what we have today. So, we want to ask questions like, how do we move a growing population? How should we spend our limited transportation dollars? Is the infrastructure alone enough to move the needle? So these are questions that we set out to really get an answer for in this document. Next slide, please. So now, what are some of the steps we took to create this plan? And just so the team knows, technical memoranda was completed for all the various steps to create this plan. But the first step we took was, we looked at all the various LRTPs, and then we defined our regional goals, objectives, and measures of effectiveness and best practices for transit supportive regions. Right? Next thing we did is we defined our regional multimodal corridor network. We had to really define what constitutes a regional trip. So we had to define the roadways, the waterways, the railways, even the transportation hubs that really define our region. And we took a look into the legislative and funding framework. And then we also did an exercise where we looked at scenario planning and transit propensity to really look at the effects of land use and flexible funding on how that would turn out, like from the use for the economy and for the population. We also looked at the financial resources, what is available to the region. And then we used travel demand modeling to really forecast the tangible results of the various scenarios tested. Next slide, please. So now, as I said, the first step, is, we wanted to define our goals, objectives, and our performance measures. So how we defined our goals and objectives is we really looked at all the 3 plans to see, what was the theme? What is the main item of the documents, the 3 documents? And what we found is that the main theme is sustainability and quality of life. So we wanted to define goals that addressed, things such as the multimodal system and land use. We had goals that address health, environment, and safety, goals addressing economy, and equity and public support. Next slide. Now, what are some of the major issues we're facing as a region? First thing I'd say is a growing population. By 2045 in our region, we're slated to add 7.5 million more people. That's a 30% growth. within that time period. And of course, with that growth, we expect to have added congestion, added pollution, more demand on the infrastructure. So, these are situations that we're going to have to address. The next thing that we said from our analysis is the mismatch of investments. Recently, there's been a high priority in the region for, transit, bicycle, complete streets projects. This is where we're moving as a region. However, when we looked at the various plans and looked at the cost feasible projects, we really see that there's a disconnect in what we're prioritizing in the region and what the funding is going to. So we really wanted to take a deeper look at that. And then the next problem we're facing is limited access. With the current development patterns, we really don't promote transit development. Like, the development patterns don't promote transit use. So if we follow the trend and follow how we've been doing things for the status quo, by 2045, only 5% of people will have access to high capacity transit from their homes, and only 10% of people will have access to high capacity transit from their jobs. I don't think this is the direction that we want to go. Next slide, please. Now, what were the different scenarios that we looked at? So the first scenario we looked at from trend was, we want to look at the high capacity transit needs. What regional scale transit sources are needed to accommodate the future growth? And what the RTAC, which is a regional technical advisory committee to the CEFTEC, what they did is they looked at various future alternatives for the transit system for the region to see how it might look. And then on top of that transit system, well, they looked at the growth and development patterns, like, are changes in development patterns necessary to complement that high capacity transit investments? So it's not only about what density the growth happens, it's where it happens. We looked at a scenario of adding the development and transit oriented development to the high capacity transit needs. And then the next thing we looked at is a financial and legislative framework. What changes to the policy and legislation will allow for greater flexibility in the existing revenues? What does a region need? What resources do we currently have? What resources we may want to look into? So that's one of the parts that we looked at in this document. And what you can see from the graphic from the right is the trend and the degrees of change from the trend. Next slide, please. So now, to even go in a little bit more for the scenarios. So as I said, the trend scenario is really business as usual, emphasis on, the strategic intermodal system, highways with existing transit service. Now, the next scenario we looked at was a regional transit scenario where, we went all in a regional scale, high capacity transit in all the major corridors, connecting the whole region from Palm Beach down to Miami. And then the next scenario we looked at was an alternative growth scenario, which added alternative growth to that regional transit scenario that we discussed earlier. So same regional transit network, however, we want to look at a land use change, look at implementing land use changes where we can put 75% of the future population and jobs around high capacity transit. And we wanted to see what would be the effects of these various scenarios. Next slide, please. Okay, so now this shows you what the modeling effects are from these various scenarios. So on the left, what you can see in blue is the trend. If we just go status quo, what we've been doing, as I said, 5% of people will have access to high capacity transit from their homes, 10% of people have access to high capacity transit from their jobs. If you look at the other scenario, it looks a little bit better. Have 20% of people have access to high capacity transit from their homes, 40% of people with access to high capacity transit from their jobs. Now, when you add an alternative growth scenario to that regional transit system, the situation even looks better. Now we have 35% of people having access to high capacity transit from their homes and 50% of people having access to high capacity transit from their jobs. Next slide, please. Now, I just wanted to reiterate again too, one of the things we really took a keen eye on in this development is our investment decisions as a region through 2045. And what this graph is really showing you is that 76% of the funds in our cost feasible plans still go to roadway and freight project. Only 14% goes to transit, complete streets, and system management projects. And this just furthermore, I guess, highlights the disconnect in what we want to prioritize as a region and what we're really putting our funding to. Next slide, please. But I'd say we're almost there. We're almost there to achieve the vision. Between the tri-rail extension in downtown Miami, the SMART plan, which connects up north, the complete street policies and guidelines, I'd say we are making great strides towards it, towards achieving the vision. Next slide, please. But to end, what I really wanted to reiterate and say is this document is really a call to action. You know, it was really about defining policies. And as such, you know, we wanted to lay the groundwork for a future vision by defining policies as a region. And the major policies we wanted to look at was regional transit with supportive infrastructure, where we look at highlighting the need for a regional transit system in our area. The next policy we want to define is a need for new revenue resources. I think we've all know that the gas tax is no longer enough to support our transportation needs. So we really need to start taking a look at new revenue resources, you know, what may be available to us. And of course, we want to look at complementary land use. We want to look at implementing policies so we can get the most out of our transit investment. You know, we want to have transportation-oriented development. If we're going to spend millions, billions on this high-capacity transit network, first and last miles, connecting the whole region, you know, let's have transportation-oriented development to get the most bang for our buck from that investment. And then, of course, you know, we want to look at flexible revenue spending. We as a region, you know, we want to look at what we need and what we want to spend our money on. So we want to have the flexibility to say, hey, you know what, maybe we don't want to put this money into specific rotary projects if the area is built out or if it's not needed. Maybe you want to put it in transit or a bicycle project or complete streets. So we really want to start having more flexibility in how we as a region go about spending our dollars. And yeah, so those are the major policies, and that's it. I think that's next slide. Yes, thank you. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to help.
So Tawari,
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
Go
No
for
problem.
it, Mike.
So how does the SEFTIC go about influencing the people who are actually making the money decisions to put more money towards the multimodal transportation?
Well, the purpose of this document, Mike, is really to, as I said, it's really to codify your voice. And this is something we want to bring to Tallahassee. You know, this is something we want to look at or change our policies. So It's something that we're going all the way to the top. And because just to give you a little bit more background, this really codifies our coordination as a region. You know, the funding buckets, Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami Beach, we all have different funding buckets. However, you know, we're all connected. Like usually when I start this presentation, I usually like to say, I live in Broward County, I work in Miami-Dade, I socialize in Palm Beach. I don't know where the county line ends. So it really highlights the importance of coordinating our future transportation projects. However, we all don't necessarily, in some cases, don't necessarily have the same vision. But in our case, in our region, even though we have different funding buckets, different priorities, we all have the same vision of where we want to go with our funding, with our policy, and just our vision. So this document really codifies our unification, and this is something we want to bring to Tallahassee to say, hey, we want to start changing the policies in our region to pretty much to achieve our vision. So that's really the main aim of this document. So to answer your question in a shorter way is, we're going to influence the money spenders by going all the way to the top to Tallahassee to change the policies. That's our goal with this document.
Gotcha.
Hello. I have a problem with the long-range transportation plan. In 1994, we put out the South Bay Greenways Plan. The long-range transportation plan in 2045 does not even implement that, not considering all the other paths that have come up since then. So basically, we haven't funded projects over 50 years. So there's got to be more revenue from somewhere if we're going to be a walkable, bikeable community. So that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, this document really goes to addressing that, Mr. Toberg, is like, for example, you're saying that project has been there for years, but it hasn't been funding. And maybe it's because you don't have the funding availability given what we're allowed to do. But as I said, if we get the flexibility and, we can change our policies as to how we go about funding our projects, then maybe we're going to have more funding availability to these types of projects. So as I said, a complete streets transit, which that falls under.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa, do you have something you want to add?
Thank you for sharing. So my question is, how are you linking to the bicycle infrastructure?
I'm having some issue
Yeah.
hearing Melissa. I can't hear you properly.
All right. Are you able to hear me?
It's a lot better.
Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to say it was an excellent presentation, and thank you so much for taking the time to explain it. My question is about...
Right on mute.
Concept 2, there's an last
It was working and then it got garbled up again.
Now she's gone completely.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Still garbled.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Much better.
Okay, I'm throwing out my AirPods. Okay, third time. Thank you very much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. It was excellent. My question is about how your plan connects to and relates to the bicycle infrastructure and the regional, sort of the regional infrastructure of bikes and the first and last mile connection.
The first and last miles are really addressed through the respective LRTPs. The regional plan is more a high up plan, and we address the bicycle infrastructure by the transit. The transit emphasis really has a bicycle infrastructure element to it. Reason being, to access any high capacity transit network, we're gonna have to have a complete street designs. We're gonna have to have complete hubs that encourages bicycle and pedestrian facility. So in that way, in the transit element of the plan, that is, we're directly addressing the bicycle infrastructure. But as far as the first and last miles, because this is a regional plan, that's really a policy recommendation plan, we don't identify specific projects in the plan. The projects are from the respective LRTPs for the first and last miles.
So what you're saying is that all of the projects that you're recommending connect to the LRTPs, the planned improvements in the LRTP?
Yes, but this, as I said, this document also, it's really a policy recommendation. This document really is us going, we want to change what we're allowed to do. We want to add new revenue resources, and we really want to start prioritizing the complete streets, bicycle network, transit network with funding, with more than just documents, with more than just words. We want to put money behind these projects. And we want to be allowed to do that. We want to have the funding freedom to do that.
So what can we do to help?
Well, this is really, I just wanted to, this is an informational item. I just wanted the committee to know, what we're doing at that level. But yeah, no, we're just by having this committee, you guys are helping our case. Just by our Corny having this committee.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other members have any comments or follow-up? I do if no one else does, but I want to give everyone else the opportunity.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, who's this? Frank?
It's Francisco. Hi, Tori. This is Francisco Relies. I think you had a great presentation as well. I really want to talk about your pie chart with the funding. So the way I understood it, the recommendations are going to be that policies spend the money differently.
No, one of the recommendations is we want to have funding flexibility. With how the funding formulas are set up, certain funds in certain buckets that we're only allowed to spend on roadway projects because of just how how funds funnel into our region. So we want to have the flexibility to put these funding into what we need as a region and not just what the state thinks we needs as a region.
So the way the existing money that's being collected can be reprioritized into different projects.
Correct. That is what we want to have the flexibility to be able to do.
All right, and so is that effort synonymous with what RER is doing in regards to their mobility fee?
Well, that would be related with a mobility fee, because what you guys are doing also, it's based on modal transportation. But this is something that we'll also be looking at. That what you guys are doing with RER with the mobility fee is an example of the flexibility that we're looking for. That's one example of the flexibility that we're looking for.
Right, but and just to be clear, I'm not with RER. I'm with DTPW. But what the mobility fee does, it replaces an existing pot per se, right? So, I mean, in essence, what you're trying to do is different. Where you're not going to say this pot's, you're not trying to pick out which pot of money you want to take from. You're saying all the money should be able to be reprioritized. Is that right? Or identify specific.
Friend, I'm having a little problem hearing you, so I don't want to answer the call. You're a little garbled or a little not clear.
I can send you an email with the question. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I could hear you a little bit better now.
The question was whether or not you're trying to repurpose the larger pot, or are you going to do it in specific pots the way the does?
I don't think we've gone that granular as to how they're addressing how they're going to go about the funding yet. Right now, we're trying to make the first step into just getting the flexibility.
Okay. All right. Well, so that being said, I think the problem is, or the policy changes probably need to happen at the state level, so that when they send us the money, we can already have flexibility built into it.
That's exactly what he's trying to get.
That's what we're trying to do, is getting a flexibility at the state level.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. This is 100% the types of things that we need to be doing. Yeah. If we need to support it in any way, let me know. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Francisco.
Anyone else? All right. Just to be quick, it does sound like you have your policies identified already. Is that the case?
Yes, we have 4 policies identified.
Okay. And I guess if my general comment is, if there's any way to create like a virtuous cycle of that a policy feeds, transportation use, and then feeds, housing affordability, and feeds all the things that we're trying to achieve in our county, that would be the most ideal. So if we have policies that feed transit use and feed access to transit, and we can really make some big gains. But I definitely appreciated your presentation, and I look forward to seeing this final.
No problem. And we'll be presenting this to the TPO board next week. We wanted to just give an opportunity to present it to all the citizen committees before we presented to TPO board. It was adopted by the CEFTEC, the regional board, as I said, on August 7th. So now all the respective TPS boards are gonna go adopt the document. But as I said, our team, we wanted to, we have our citizens committee, and we wanted to just share this information with you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Colin, we're right on schedule, 6:25, so everything's going good.
And I know that, yeah, and I know that, Kevin, we weren't necessarily making this like a full presentation. This is just more of an informational, just a short discussion. I'll turn my camera on so you guys can see my face.
All right, hold on 1 second, Tiffany. Sorry. Go ahead. Let me, Colin, go back. You're in control of the meeting. Go back to you.
Oh, so this is the informational item FDOT Bike Network online application. Tiffany Gerke to present. Take it away.
And really, this is just not a formal presentation necessarily. At least it doesn't necessarily have to be. We're just, I've sent the link to Kevin to distribute to everyone, but you actually might be getting it through different means because Eli Steers will be distributing it to Trail Alliance members as well. And I know some of you have already received it based on meetings we've already had. I know I've sent it to Kevin, I've sent it to Colin. So you're probably gonna get this link multiple different ways. But I don't know, when Nelson sent you this, is it just this one slide?
No, it's like 4 or 5 slides.
Okay, good. Okay, so you can go and you can see, this is just an overview of what it looks like. There's multiple different tabs on the side that you can click and toggle through. You can turn things on and off, different layers. So let's say you want to look at the existing. You can go to the existing and just turn on the existing features. I see, and you guys are all gonna, some of you may comment on this, shares are listed. That is not something that I said, please take it off, but it was just, it was already in there. Just keep that off because we're not considering it. Cheryl's are not a bike facility. I can't reiterate that enough. So just keep that one off. Don't even look at it. Don't review it. Don't anything with it. But you can look at the upcoming, the planned, the program. Some of you know the projects coming in. Some of you know the ones that are, you know, planned in the long range plans and in other plans. So you can go in and you can make comments based on those. Go to the next slide if you would. Okay, so yeah, you can see this just tells you about the different things that are within those tabs. Just a little bit. We have the greenway section, have the municipality boundaries. Now we've included the municipality boundaries for more of our own when we're going into the assessment phase, or not the assessment phase, but the phase of who we need to get in contact with and who we need to have meetings with. You can turn that on if you want to look at one municipality over another. You can turn that layer on to start seeing. And the same with commission districts, that a certain commissioner might be very, very supportive of a certain type of bike facility or trails. And in that case, we might have a little bit more power to get some things implemented in those areas. But you can also see we'll have the major connections, which include transit hubs and other things. And in that section, you can toggle that on and off as well. But yeah, go to the next slide, please. Yeah. And that's, again, the interactive legend panel where you can turn and toggle things off and on. You'll go to the next slide, please. Okay. And that just goes into a little depth about what the different features are, again, which I've already kind of summarized. But this is all also in that guide that's going to be attached to the email you'll all receive. If you'll go to the next slide. Okay, this is kind of one of the important things. When you click on a segment, you'll be able to see that informational panel that will give you some of the details on it. You'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, and this is where you guys can come in. Now, however, I want to inform you, if you're having difficulties with this Help Improve the Network section, you can always just make a list and you can send it to me and I can have it, input manually. This Help Improve the Network button here, this is where you're going to add comments. So if you notice a segment like we had discussed previously that a Commodore Trail was showing is there and it was not, you can go in and select that segment and you can put, you can add the details of the facility is not present, and when it is showing it is present. You'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, that's all, but if you have any questions, Again, when you go to the help, when you go and click on help improve the network, Nelson didn't add this to the presentation, which is okay, but he does describe it in this little 1, 2, 3. There's an ad for adding comment. So you want to turn to add, it says add feature. You're going to click add feature when you want to add a comment, and then you're going to click on the segment that you want to add the comment for. Okay, and then when you do that, then you can add the details. But again, if you're having difficulty with it, don't hesitate to just reach out to me and give me the comments, because I can take them that way too. There's no problem with that. But this is something to at least see. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can see what we have listed, because we want to know that the features that we have in place are accurate before we start building on a network based on, I don't want to say based on lies, but based on something that's not actually existing. So we want this to be as accurate as possible, and we would like it to include all the facilities that are actually there. So with that, that's pretty much the summary. I didn't ask Nelson and all them to be a part of it, just because it was just a summary of where we are. The next steps after we receive feedback are we will be reaching out to the different municipalities, and we will be starting to have that coordination of, okay, these are the gaps within the network. These are the different facilities that could fill that gap. Now, what's most feasible? What's the next project coming up to be, whether it's resurfaced, or do you have something planned for that, and what's possible? So just starting to have those conversations about what can fill the gaps, because we need to step away from a very fragmented network and start to connect the dots, especially when it comes to our transit facilities. And because I do see within the network, when you toggle on, and you guys will see this, that conversation you were having about first and last mile connections, you can see that with there's a lot missing in Miami-Dade County with respect to bike facilities around our transit hubs, and you can toggle those on and off and see that within this application. So this will be a good aha moment from a lot of us, including me, of, okay, we do have problems with first and last mile, and that's a problem, but we also have problems with gaps. So I think we all knew that based on our experiences, but this really just makes it very clear in a map format. All right, any questions?
Yes, Eric Toberg. How exactly do we get to this screen? In other words, how do we get to this bicycle network? Is there some website or something to get to?
There's a link, and I sent it to Kevin. He'll be sending it out. And you actually, do you attend the Trail Alliance? Are you part of the Trail Alliance too, Eric? With Eli?
I don't think so. I'm part of the MDTA.
Okay,
But,
I don't know, because he's sending it out to Trail Alliance members as well, so I wasn't sure. But you will get it from Kevin. But I was just for some of you, you might get it from multiple outlets. So I'm sorry for bombarding you with the same content. But you will get it from Kevin though. And I hope that's okay, Kevin, that I've had you distribute it, just because some of the emails I do not have.
That's very good. Now, you're going to need to have several different layers. You have the existing, and then you're going to need the under construction, and then the next is the funded.
Yeah,
and then after that is planned.
Yeah.
So you've got several layers of add-ons.
You'll be able to see it a little bit, and the guide will tell you too about because we have put in the existing and upcoming bicycle network. So upcoming kind of summarizes what's been funded. So, and that could mean funded and under construction, or that could mean funded and not under construction, but that means it's upcoming. So this will be something that if something happens to be finalized with construction, just as we are, working on this, then that is something that we'll have to go in and update as it's been constructed. But for the most part, hopefully, I mean, but to be honest, kind of, if you really think about it, it kind of doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but when it comes to a long-term network plan, like what we're creating here, if it's funded or under construction, it kind of doesn't matter because it means it's happening. It means it will be in place by the time we put all those other connections in. So in the terms of what we're dealing with here, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's funded or under construction, as long as it's 100% going to happen. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand that, and I'm a little bit confused because is this a planning tool or is this something that people are going to be able to call up on their smartphones or on or print out a short section?
This is a planning tool. This is a planning tool, and hopefully we can transform this into eventually, so that right now it's a planning tool, but hopefully we'll be able to transform it once we've established the network. Hopefully we can transform it into that thing that we always go back and refer to say, hey, City of Homestead, you have this project that you said a bike facility, and we've identified the bike facility would be that connection. I noticed you have a project coming up. What's the status? And that way they can report back to us that, hey, we are putting it in, or, we tried and we can't because of X, because of da-da-da-da-da. Well, if they say no because we can't, then we have to go back and then we have to look in that kind of, that zone of connection, that little like buffer space that includes other roadways, and we have to go back to the drawing table to see what would the next best option be for that connection.
So Tiffany, then in some way you can get to who's responsible for that project.
Yes, because
Okay.
that's the key. It's about identifying the best connections and who would be responsible to make that connection. And the thing is, there might be a point where we say, you know what, it could be this or this. Well, then we could put as both potential, and then you have the context for each. And then whichever project comes up first, or is an opportunity to be, resurfaced or funded or, or reconstructed first, then that's when we're going to be like, okay, add it. See if you can add it.
How about maintenance of current facilities? Something Eric was talking about earlier was some of the condition and sections of the old Cutler Road bike path. So how would he use this this tool to figure out who he needs to get in touch with?
Right now, let me see if that is listed on here, because that might be actually listed. Let me look.
If it's not, it's a huge hole.
No, yeah. No, it actually might, because it says on this, okay, Old Cutler Trail form, part of the trail, yes, roadway posted speeds. Okay, okay, what I'm going to see if we can do is add maintaining agency, because I want to see if we have that for any of, I know that data exists. Yeah, I'm going to have us add, see if we can add another feature to here when you go to the informational panel. So you'll actually be able to see within the tool itself, because yeah, you're right, that's a big hole in the tool that we don't have the maintaining agency, because that means that's going to be a separate lookup for us when it could just be embedded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna talk to Nelson, and I'm gonna see if we can add that, because 100% that's what we need that.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that, because yeah, thank you.
All right, Hank, you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, when I joined the meeting, I was out on my bike and I was not using video, and then I got home and sat in front of my laptop, and there was a message from Eli Steers that I noticed as I was getting into this meeting, and it had the link and to the app. And I don't know where you're going to go with this, Tiffany, but a lot of people look at things only on their phones these days, not on big screens. So I know you said this is a planning tool, and it's not. But I don't know where you're going to go with it. But it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I just think you need. I hope you will keep in mind that that at some point it should be made phone friendly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my hope is that this is the planning tool, but we can build off of this. So in a way that would be friendly for a phone, because right now with all the fine details that this requires, because it is that planning tool, and we have to really get down to like the little details. It is very difficult to put on as an application on a phone, but in the next phase, hopefully, as we expand this, as we've defined that network, this can be something that, you know, the public can potentially see of what's out there, what's upcoming, what is, you know, so they can actually maybe even become a little bit more involved in, you know, in their communities as far as encouraging the development of other things. Because a lot of people don't realize, you know, the power, I guess, of the public and of their own voices. So, I mean, that's just something that we can consider. And I mean, this is step one. We got to start somewhere. But my hope is from here, we can just build it so people will not only know the safe routes they can take, but also they can see what and get excited about the upcoming projects.
All right, Tiffany?
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, if I recall correctly, you, MFDOT's coming back to the next meeting with this particular presentation as a full presentation after they've received comments from the BPAC, correct?
Yes, but we also do have to talk about projects too, so we'll try to like split it half and half. I don't want to take too much time.
Okay. All right, so if anybody's done, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next one because we wanted to keep this one particular item short.
Thank you.
All right, BPAC procedures and purpose. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Yeah. Actually, that is the slide.
Oh, that is the slide?
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties with my headset, so I'm just going to talk without the headset for now. Hopefully you can hear me. This item was, as you know, at the last meeting back on June 23rd, Member Fisher, who is not here yet, had wanted to have a 30-minute session at the meeting dedicated to the BPAC so that they could discuss BPAC procedures and purpose. You know, when, for example, when an item is done by the BPAC or you pass a resolution, you know, what happens when it goes to the TPO board and you want to have your voice heard more and things of that nature, and whether or not, you know, as I mentioned at that time, I know the chair or the vice chair could go to a board meeting and, you know, when they have public comments and talk about the concerns of that particular committee. And also, when Colin mentioned at that meeting, also that any of the members can go there and represent themselves. I think it was what you said. Colin, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, like you said, it was June 23rd, a long time ago. So right now without Charles here, it gets to be like an open forum for you all to see what you want or how you think the BPAC can be better heard at the TPO board if you have a concern, because I know some of you did not have that concern, some of you did.
Kevin, I had a question about the motions.
Go ahead.
No, I guess I wanted you to, I guess, talk a little more about the difference between resolutions and motions, and because I think I've been on the board for over a year, and I don't recall anybody ever making a motion to the TPO board.
No, we've had a few resolutions last year. I think I can't remember off the top of my head how many numbers the resolutions the BPAC did last year. Last year being 2019. We had a new procedure set up for 2019, where we're trying to not have you know, multitudes of resolutions or motions being done just for the sake of them being done. And for resolutions that are going to the board, be ones for, you know, that are impactful or like action items and per se. So if you are recommending, like for example, when any of the smart plan corridor projects come through, and you're representing a resolution of support for that, things of that nature. And what remember Hank was saying earlier regarding Sharrows and so forth, that, you know, if we're going to have a position by the BPAC on Sharrows, this, you know, that could be done as a resolution. Now what happens is that that resolution or any of those actions by the BPAC will then go to the TPO board as an agenda, not as an agenda item, but under the committee reports, and so it would be there for the record that the BPAC has a particular opinion on something, but it's not as though it would be its own agenda item at the TPO board for them to vote on approving or denying it. And that goes for all of the advisory committees, not just the BPAC.
And just to follow up on that, Kevin, if there was an item that rose to that level that we really wanted the TPO to address, is that something where we would need an individual member to bring it to the TPO? Or is there some other, I guess, what's the procedure for that?
Okay, so can you repeat the first part of your sentence again, Carl? I'm sorry.
If there was an item that rose to the level of concern from this board that we really felt the TPO needed to address, is that something we would want or we would need to have a individual member of the TPO bring as an item to the board, or is there some other mechanism for that?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question in two parts. Just finishing up my previous thing about the motions and the resolutions. If you did a motion, it would be just part of the minutes. If you did a resolution, it'll be an actual document on its own. So therefore, it would be a standalone document that is seen by the TPO board members. So if you had an item that you were trying to make sure was known, then at the meeting in which that item would be on the TPO board agenda, one of the BPAC member, yourself or the vice chair, could go and then talk about that particular issue at the time when it's on the agenda. Another thing also to directly answer your second question is that would be best done if a current TPO board member would be championing the issue. You know, to place it on there as a TPO board item. You know, so if you're so say for example, let's just use the
Commodore Trail.
Commodore Trail. Thank you. I was trying to think of an item in Collins area right there off of the Julia Tuttle or but I'll use the Commodore Trail. So if you have a commissioner or a TPO board member who is championing it, then it will go on the TPO board agenda by them putting it on there themselves. And that was part of the case with the recent action where we had the Commodore Trail, Old Cutler Trail, and the Rickenbacker Causeway Trail being support for being put as on the Sun Trail priority list. So that was being pushed by one of the area commissioners. Did that answer your question, Carl?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, comments, anything we want to talk about? I know Mr. Fisher is not available, and this is something that it was his baby. So I guess if there's anyone else who has questions. Yes, sir.
Eric Dolberg, I see in the founding resolution, originally we had 15 members, and then it was expanded to 21. Our membership rules require one member from each person on the TPO, but that is 24. So are we allowed to have 24 or 21 members?
The current number of members is the current number of TPO board members. So right now it is, I believe it's 24. So not all, and that is on the premise that each of the board members have appointed a representative on the advisory board committee, because you have like few advisory boards, and you'll have a board member who has, so you'll have some board members who have only one appointment, you have some who have appointments in all the boards and et cetera. So there's vacancies all around, but there is no one particular advisory committee where there are 24 members. And that's sort of a good thing too, because you think the sweet spot would probably be between, you know, a dozen and 15, because anything above that, then it becomes kind of unwieldy. You know, right now it's easier because we're online, but as you can, if you're all the current members, if you look at our room that we're in the government center building, if we had 22 of you or 24 of you in that room, it would be kind of tight. And I'm talking pre-COVID. I'm not talking about 6 foot distance now. I'm just talking before then. It would be tough to fit 24 people in there.
How many current members do we have now?
And the meetings would take a long time.
Yes, and the meetings would take extra long. Yes, we have 11 members right now.
Thank you.
And we have 11 members and one barking dog.
That's mine. I'm sorry.
Anyone else on this item?
Yes, this is Brett Bebo.
Hello, Brett. Take it away.
Hi. Long time ago when I was chair, all of the subcommittees, of which there were 4, maybe 5 at the time, of the then MPO, there was a standing agenda item for those subcommittees to make a presentation. And kind of like the standard operating procedure is all the various chairs or vice chairs would go to the meeting and present the update on behalf of their respective subcommittees. So that's something that I tried to always put into my schedule to take the time to do that. Mr. Walford, are all the current subcommittees, do they appear on the monthly public meeting agendas of the TPO automatically like they used to, or has that changed?
Well, it's not so much automatically, but it's on the TPO agenda right now at the end of it. But so I know my own personal experience, I've seen maybe 2 or so committee chairs going before the board to explain a particular topic, but it's not a regular occurrence. And
so it is on the agenda every month, or it's not?
Yes, according to what I'm being told, that it is at the end of the TPO agenda. So it's probably right. Now at the same time, also a lot of times at the end of the meeting, when they do their committee appointments and such, everything's kind of rushed and so forth. So that's probably what happens. It gets lost in the shuffle. But from what I understand, it is on the agenda at the end.
Okay.
And
I think I recall having it.
And the chairs, the chairs of each committee can speak at the beginning of the meeting. Speak at the beginning, under reasonable opportunity to be heard.
Okay.
Sorry, Brett.
Okay, so the item, although the item appears at the end of the agenda, the item is there, and the public comment period is in the beginning of the meeting. So then it really hasn't changed. We have a standing agenda item where the chair, or in the absence of the chair, the vice chair, may present the update of the BPAC, correct?
Yes.
Then I don't understand kind of what we're talking about.
How do you mean?
I mean, it seems like the process is up and running. There's a standing agenda item. The chair or the vice chair can go say the piece of the committee that they represent.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Yes, you can, and I think the concern by Member Fisher was more is that some of the things that he has got when they go up there, not they being a person, but when an item goes up there, it's like they don't, in his mind, they've not making any mention of the lower committee's comments or work addressing a particular project. It's just approved, denied, and so forth, as opposed to acknowledging the process that went through to get there. I think I can't speak for him because he's not here, but I think that's where he was coming from.
So do you intend to defer this item till a future meeting when he is able to present, I guess, his item?
Well, that would be up to you all, not so much me, because it's not my item. But I would say that if we want to defer it again, we can. We just have to try to make sure, because we wanted to. We blocked out a 30-minute window, so that's why there is.
No, I understand.
But
you're saying that it
there are
became
a couple items that would have been on this agenda which we took off because we wanted to make sure there was enough space. So if we do that, want to make sure that we're not squeezing anything or we're running too late or anything like that.
Okay, so then how about this as a solution? We had hoped that the requester would have been able to present as scheduled. Were they notified that their item was on the agenda?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But they weren't able to attend.
Yes, and I've contacted Mr. Fisher via email, text, and phone during this meeting. You may have seen me on the phone. So.
Okay, so then, I mean, I guess obviously if he requests in the future for the item to come back, I don't think we're going to object and say no. So if he wants to bring it back, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, we can do that, but we can't at this stage right now. We can't do it as a date certain. It'll be to say whenever it comes up. So I don't want to say we'll put it on the October meeting and then have that meeting already pinned down. So whenever I speak to him next, because as you may know, when somebody's absent, I call them after the next day and ask them what happened. So when I do talk to him, I'll ask him when would he want next to go on the agenda. Then I'll clear that with Colin, and we'll go from there.
Okay, that's fine. And I don't think it's necessarily time sensitive. So. I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to item 10.
It looks like Hank is actually raising his hand.
So who's raising their hand?
Hank.
I was raising my hand for the last 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hank. Go ahead.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. You're in the meadow someplace.
I'm in the south of France, but I'm actually not. The picture is. I wish I were. I really was glad to see that this was on the agenda and that Charles raised it, and I'm very sorry he's not here to pursue it. I was very sympathetic to having the topic on the agenda and getting into it a bit, and I don't know whether we're going to come back to this or not. I said at the beginning of the meeting that I want to pursue a proposal to the point where it might become county policy, and I don't know how that happens. My sense of how we operate is that we basically react. People bring things to us and make presentations, and we comment, and that's it. We're not very proactive, and I think that I'm not sure that we're supposed to be. I know that we're only advisory, but a lot of us are people who have spent a lot of their lives being advocates for, in my case, better bicycling infrastructure, both in Miami now for 15 years and in mainly California for several decades. And in California, I could see a lot of results. We really got things done. Here, I don't see as many results. It's a lot harder to get things done. I was hoping when I joined the BPAC that it might be a way to get things done. I knew from participating and observing in the past that it hadn't had. But if there's a way to make the BPAC more proactive and more effective and more instrumental in actually developing policy related to bicycle and pedestrian issues in Miami-Dade County and getting the TPO board to pay attention to us more than they do, I think that would be great. I don't know if that is out of line, inappropriate, or absolutely okay. I have no idea. I intend to push it and test it with this thing about Sharrows. But obviously, as Tiffany pointed out FDOT comes into that. I knew that if we got into Sharrows deeply, at some point, the state of Florida would have to come into it. That I didn't think that Miami-Dade County could, independent of the state, have a policy for Sharrows. But anyway, I just think that this is really worth pursuing. I'm going to pursue it with the Sharrows issue. I'm sorry Charles is not here. I don't know what else he had in mind. I don't know what he thought we might accomplish in the half hour set aside for this.
Already spent a half an hour on it.
Anyway,
Okay,
I'll shut up.
and Brett, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Hank, I think you have that ability today. I think that has been standard operating procedure for BPAC for the 19 years that I volunteered on it. I think you have the right as a board member to make a motion tonight about we don't recommend Sharrows. And as a matter of fact, I think we may have already made that motion at some point in time. Yeah. We did, Michael?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so we already have that motion on file. And Colin, you are the chair. How do you feel about Hank's suggestion to take our old negative recommendation on Sharrows to a future TPO meeting where you have a standing agenda item and bring that BPAC recommendation to their attention on the record?
I don't have a problem attending the meeting and giving my 2 minutes to review whatever we've talked about in the previous meeting.
And I think that's what Hank is suggesting, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, Hank.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to confuse the matter. There are two things we're talking about right now. One is Sharrows and a policy on Sharrows. And I wouldn't just go to the TPO board and say, we don't like Sharrows, and you shouldn't either. I would go with a much more specific recommendation for a policy about when it's okay to use Sharrows, given that for the most part, it's not okay at all. And so I want to really look into that and develop a policy. But the other thing we're talking about is the process and impact of this committee, which is what I thought we were really talking about now. I don't want to get into Sharrows now.
No, that was just an example.
Brett?
Yes, that was just a current example. And so, Hank, if you want to improve the reso, I was trying to be brief in summarizing it. But if you want to update the old reso and improve upon it and bring it in a future meeting to a new vote, and then have the chair carry that new reso to the public TPO board where we're already on the agenda every month, then that's fine. But I think that process already exists. And I know you're trying to make positive change, and respectfully, I would suggest you're wrapping yourself up unnecessarily in red tape. There's enough red tape that you and I have to deal with and everybody has to deal with on a regular basis. But I think in this particular circumstance, we don't really have all that red tape to worry about. We just make our motions as detailed or simple as the board member that makes the motion, and then the chair has the ability to bring it to the TPO at every single meeting. And this thing about, well, the resos to the TPO versus the motions to the county, and this thing is really a county issue versus a TPO issue. I'm not worried about any of that. The chair can go on a county issue or an FDOT issue or any issue that the majority of the BPAC vote on in our advisory recommendation and state it publicly to the TPO in our allotted 2 minutes.
Chair, if I may for a second, on one of the future items in this meeting, it's going to pop up on this exact same topic. But basically, any of these issues, just like Brett said, any of the topics that you are concerned with, it be just a general, it could be a specific topic that has a resolution, or it could just be a general topic in general. about the BPAC has been speaking about, that, you know, Colin or if anybody that Colin would designate to go to the board meeting to bring up. And like as we said, that's already in place, and you know, in a couple minutes you'll find out how much more in place it will be. Colin, and
yeah, I just want to move on from this item, since we kind of already identified that that we would bring it up in the future meeting, and I think we've knowing that we can present you know, on these items, we'll be able to do that.
All right, so
Eric Tiller, can I say something?
Please be brief.
Yes, I think we really need to discuss the shadow thing. I don't know whether either each of us should send in a proposal, or I should bring forward something, and maybe everybody can comment on it. But I think there needs to be a lot of discussion about this various minutiae of when they should be used, et cetera, et cetera. We're just sort of going and saying shadows are bad, but there may be some times when they are useful. Thank you.
Great. All right. Item X1, MPO Resolution 1085, July 26, 2001, creation of the BPAC. Kevin.
Okay, yeah, these items here, there's some informational items that we're going to be here as backup material for any of the discussions that we're going to have if need be.
Okay, so we can move forward.
And so this one we can move to the next one.
Same thing.
And the bylaws, one of the bylaws, Lisa, thank you. Go to the next page. All right, I'm gonna move the items around a bit, Colin, if you don't mind. Item X. Leave this on the screen now, Lisa. I'm going to jump from item X2, which is bylaws, to X4, which is meeting dates. So are you able to zoom in at all, Lisa? If you're able to zoom in on the first slide under Rule 6.0. Okay, and this is in your existing bylaws, and they're going to have some changes along within the TPO advisory committee meetings, and how it affects the BPAC is this particular one right here, where it says, let's read it for the record, the BPAC shall meet prior to all TPO governing board meetings to ensure timely distribution of motions, resolutions, and meeting notes reports to the TPO governing board for their consideration. The BPAC meeting date shall be set after the approval of the TPO governing board meeting scheduled for the calendar year. If circumstances warrant, the chairperson may cancel or postpone a regular meeting, and if necessary, set a new date, time, and place for the meeting. What this means, and I mentioned to you about 3 minutes ago, that if you're going to have any issues that the BPAC wants to bring forward to the board, that it's best that obviously that the BPAC meet before the board, so you can talk about it at the board within a week or so. So this is where this comes into play. Go ahead, Lisa, and go to the meeting dates slide, X4. Currently, the BPAC has been meeting on the 4th Tuesday of each month for a few years, but we're going to be resetting that now. Next one. There we go. To the 2nd Tuesday of the month. Hopefully that does not affect some of the schedules of your other commitments with meetings and such. I know with Mike, I think his meetings are at the 3rd Tuesdays. I think that's where he has it.
The Everglades High School Club.
Yeah. So, but we're going to be moving the dates to the, as I mentioned, the 2nd Tuesday here. This one here today. Obviously, today's date is the 3rd, but nonetheless, October would be moving to the 13th. November would be the 10th, and December would be the 8th. By having the meetings on this project on these dates, it will be in line with the other advisory committee meetings, and it will also mean that the BPAC would meet at least 9 days before the governing board meeting. Sometimes the governing board is on the 4th week, but it's on the 3rd week and 4th week, about 50% of the time. But this way, that anything that happens at a project or BPAC meeting, like if it's a smart plan, resolutions, things like that, is then able to go to the board meeting the following week. So this is part of this readjusting of the schedule is to adhere, is for the BPAC to more closely adhere to its own bylaws. All right, then the next one, is there any questions on that? Okay, good.
What we used to do in the past was we would have the meeting the month before, and what would be reported would be from the previous month.
Correct. But the thing is, right now, it went the way that's set up right now with you being the 4th Tuesday. It's almost like 3 weeks, if not a month, before it actually goes to the TPO, or the TPO board actually meets the week before you did, and it seems as though you're behind schedule.
Okay, there may be a conflict with the Injury Prevention Council, but we can discuss that offline.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then, so Lisa, if you can go back now to X3, member appointments. Thank you. You can go to the, right, here we go. So as you know, 2020 is an election year, and we have, for local elections, we have several board members who are either running for other offices and or being out because of term limits. On the screen there, you see highlighted 1, 2, 3, 6 of the board members here that they're appointing members are in an election campaign, right? So the way the rules work per the TPO prospectus and the BPAC bylaws is that if you are appointed to a committee, you are on that committee as long as your appointing board member is in office. So if they leave their office for anything because they want to run for another office or whatever the case may be, your assignment ends at that time. All right. So in the case of, and this specifically addresses districts 1 and 3, which is our chair and vice chair. Oh, there, I have Sabine as the vice chair again. I apologize, Sabine. It's Mike. So Barbara Jordan and Audrey Edmondson are not running for the re-election. They're termed out. So that would mean that on on November 17th, which is when the switchover date is, that both Sabine and Colin would no longer be on the BPAC. So what we need to have them do is it's to be reappointed, and whether it be reappointed by the incoming board member or any of the other board members who may have vacancies. We're currently in the process, we being the TPO, working with the other committee members and the board's coordinator to figure out how we're going to handle this within the next 2 months. So I'll be getting back with you, the members whose names are on there, so that you can see how we're going to best handle this. I understand with Charles Fisher, I'm not sure about Eileen Higgins. I think she's running unopposed or something like that. But in the case of District 8, Melissa Hagee, Daniela Bean-Cow was running for mayor. So obviously Melissa's assignment would be ending on November 17th. Well, she just started here, but that will be, hopefully we'll be able to reassign her very quickly. But that's the way that is. That's the way that I would operate. So we're going to, and one of the things we're going to be looking at also, and I don't want to bore you with my minutia, is our TARC, one of the other committees, the way their bylaws are written, is that it has like a window. If somebody leaves, if a member leaves the board, TPO board, that their appointed member stays off like an additional 30 days or something. So there's some sort of a transition period as opposed to you're done. So we're looking at maybe seeing if that can be done and then make that be one of the edits to the BPAC bylaws.
That would allow time for you to be able to see if the person can be reappointed. that gives you time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes
Is
sense.
that something that will be an item on the next agenda then?
It will be on the next agenda item, yeah, because next one's gonna be in October, because we want to have this thing resolved before election day.
Thank you very much. That was very informative.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then the next slide is the BPAC attendance report, and everybody is in good position. There were 3 meetings, three meetings left. So as long as you attend at 5, we'll have 9 meetings for the year. As long as you attend 5 of the 9 meetings, you'll be above the 50% requirement. And in the case of Melissa, who just joined with this meeting, it'd be 4 meetings. So Melissa, you'd have to make sure you attend at least three of the four, because 2 and 2 is still 50%. And the next meeting date, as I mentioned before, is going to be October, and I forgot already, October 13th. Thank you. And then that is it, Colin.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there any closing comments, statements from anyone before we adjourn?
I wanted to
are you waving
thank
goodbye?
Melissa
Are you...
for.
Okay.
So somebody said something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to I didn't get a chance to welcome Melissa Heggie to the BPAC. So just wanted to formally say, welcome, and she's going to be, I know she's going to be a great asset to us.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And I do want to suggest that next month we have 1 member on the Metro Mover, 1 on the Metro Rail, and 1 walking, just so we can hit all of the modes as part of our meeting. So, because I think that was pretty impressive. You were able to communicate clearly while on your bike, and it wasn't all muffled or anything like that. So it's good on you. Thank you all.
So the week before the meeting, I will draw straws and tell you ahead of time that you need to be on the Metro Mover, Metro Rail, and Metro Bus while in the meeting. So be prepared.
And we also hope that Francisco was not actually driving.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
Meeting adjourned, 7:19 p.m.